No, I am not late. Nor am I early. I arrived precisely when I meant to, which was yesterday. Yes, I finally went to see the Chainsaw Man movie, and I just kind of want to yap about it without scripting anything out or anything, because it has been forever since I talked about Chainsaw Man. It's been like, what, 2-3 years since season 1? And as far as I know, we don't know anything about season 2 or a follow-up movie, or are they going to call it season 3, because this movie is going to be season 2. They're probably going to cut it up realistically, right? That seems to be what they're doing in the industry. Whatever the case, I just want to talk about the movie because I really, really enjoyed it. However, I do still have a few gripes because, of course I do. So let's talk about it. Okay, first things first, I think if you've seen pretty much anything I've ever done on YouTube before, you'll know that I am not a fights guy. Like, I don't watch these stories to see the fights. I watch them for the plot, I watch them for the character drama. I want to see the human heart at war with itself. I want to explore abstract ideas and emotions. And only then, I want to see a fight as a payoff to all of that, right? And that's something I was always really, really worried about when I heard that this was going to be a movie, right? Even people said, like, it makes sense to adapt this into a movie. I was always a little bit anxious because I am very much a long-form story enjoyer. I want to see a slow build-up, then an explosive payoff. Can't really do that if you're working with an hour and 40, right? Or 5 anime episodes, give or take. Probably even less than that, like cutting out all the outro, intro, everything like that, right? That being said, I think the first, like, third of this, first half of this, I don't know, I've only seen the movie once. I think this had better characterization than season 1 of Chainsaw Man, and I don't know how they did it. Maybe it is an outcome of this being a movie, so they, like, hyper-concentrated all of that. But the amount of things I was feeling and thinking about when even in the brief, like, Makima scenes when they were going to the cinema, the amount of things that were running through my head, I was like, man, they really went in on like setting this up in this subtle way, but still telling you an absolute ton, right? And I guess we can talk about these things one by one. So the Makima cinema scenes, even by the end of the movie, I was wondering, like, what exactly am I looking for, right? Because obviously the whole thing is Denji is very easily manipulated because, well, his life has been kind of miserable, right? He has never gone to school. Oh, that's like a whole thing in this with Reze as well. We'll talk about it. Basically, he has never really had a life, right? So all of these women around him, all these people around him in general, they manipulate him. And Makima is obviously like the prime candidate number 1. So when they were doing like the whole dating thing, I thought that this was just like grooming Denji, right? Because that's pretty much what we've seen thus far, right? It's manipulation. And even by the end of the movie, there's the whole Makima pretty much always knew about what was going on. So was this just her, like, preemptively setting up Denji for all of this? Maybe. But we also see her cry, right? With the hug. And then I'm thinking, the end of the movie saw Reze hug Denji, and there was the whole thing about Reze actually also never went to school, and she is also a weapon in someone else's war machine, and Reze and Denji are actually the same. So now I'm over here thinking, wait a minute, is Makima crying because she doesn't have anyone who is just like her? Like, she is always in this position where she is supposed to be the dominant one? She is never going to get this moment of meeting someone who is like her, right? And I'm thinking about all these things, and this was done in like 10 scenes, maybe. Even less than that, maybe, right? And that's just like one example of this. The way Denji evolves throughout this movie is also really interesting. We got to see like brief glimpses of this throughout season 1 as well, where he was questioning like what is going on. But especially, I think with like the pool scene, right? Which, by the way, I think is my favorite scene of this movie. The soundtrack for the pool sequence, right, where Reze teaches him to swim. Oh my god, and the way they did the storytelling through that, we cut away to like the spider web as she is enthralling Denji. Beautiful. And the way we see him constantly like flipping between like, my heart belongs to Makima, so why do I want to go with her, and all this. Cinema. Now, I will say, one of the things with this movie is that I thought it was very, very telegraphed. Like, I thought it was very, very predictable. But that still didn't take away from this. And I think, like, the thing that I keep thinking about with the movie is, in a weird way, when I think about the pool scene now in my brain, I almost view it in a similar way as I think about many parts of Breaking Bad, right? In the sense that there were these moments where everything could have worked out fine. And I think the pool scene, right? Maybe this is going to be a hot take. I've already seen some discussions about the movie, so I don't know if this is a hot take. But my interpretation was that Reze always did genuinely connect with Denji, and she did genuinely care about him, right? That's my takeaway, right? Like I thought she was genuinely in love with him to some capacity, right? And I think there was an idea that they could run away together and start a new life because they were the same. So when I think about the pool scene, it was this simple beauty, right? And I think that's when everything could have worked out fine. And that just makes it all the more tragic. Because Denji was struggling with this whole thing of, my life is suddenly turning out fine. And then there's like the whole talk of a city rat and a what was it, like not a field rat. What's the word in English? But you get what I mean, like a city rat and the other rat, right? And how they don't really match, and that in and of itself is a tragedy, because they kind of both seemingly want the whole thing, but the way they have fallen into this whole mess of being weapons in someone else's war machine is beautiful characterization, and I couldn't just, is great. Like I think I enjoyed Reze's story with Denji more than I think I did any other story in season 1. I think I'd go as far as to say that. Also, another small scene. Aki was one of my favorite characters throughout season 1. The way he interacted with like the, I forget his name, but like the angel devil, right? Does he even have a name? I don't remember. But anyway, Aki struggles with like accepting him. And obviously we've seen Aki already struggle with many things throughout season 1 with the loss of Himeno and stuff, right? The line that struck me the absolute most though was the, please die away from me because I'm sick of watching people die, right? And I think that's kind of going to be Aki's burden for the rest of the story. I think I've made predictions throughout the season 1 videos. I think Aki is unfortunately going to be one of the last men standing in this little mess. Because usually when you set up a character like this, who only see death and their burden is survival, even though he knows that he's going to die in a few months, I think there's going to be like, you know, bitter irony with him. So unfortunately, I do think a lot more people are going to die around him. But I think it also opens up like interesting moral perspectives, right? Because there was the whole like I'm a demon, and like he was the angel guy, right? Like he has one of the most powerful abilities, yet he doesn't want any of this. Like he's like, I kind of want to die, you know? So all of that was just like really interesting in the sense that Aki wants to protect people, but he's also sick of just everyone else dying around him. And then there's this guy who wants to die and Aki wants to save him. And this whole like constant push-pull. I hope we get to see more of them in season 2 or whatever the next movie is. I just loved all of that in terms of just exploring these abstract ideas that are not really to do with just like Denji and Reze blowing each other up. Love it. Another thing I want to talk about is the world building of this, right? Because Reze is obviously a USSR or some kind of devil, right? This was like, this is the kind of lore I wish I could just like take screenshots and read the full thing, because they literally, this is like a thing they mention at the end of the movie, and I was like, man, I want to make sure I get my facts straight, right? But basically, she is kind of weird, some kind of weird experimental weapon program, as far as I understand, right? Like they take children and then they like mold them into war machines. Pretty much like in a way, she is very similar to Denji. Only it seems like instead of having a manipulative Makima, there's just kind of like a brutal regime that trains them into these things, right? And from a world building perspective, obviously my brain goes wild in terms of what are the governmental programs to do with this, right? Like the whole gun devil and all of this. I wonder how all of that plays into pretty much all this, right? Like, again, I want to see what's going on in other parts of the world. What's up with like foreign agent devils? Is this something I should be thinking about? I don't know. It seems like it is something I want to think about, right? But it's, again, I think, like, for me, the duality of the two of them just sticks out more than really the world building. Again, I can't gush about the characterization of Reze and Denji enough. To think they were so similar, and to think that they could have ran away together, makes my little heart hurt a little bit. You know what actually doesn't make my heart hurt at all? I think this movie was pulling punches. Why did no one die? This is something that I'm sitting here and I'm wondering what the hell. Because even in season 1, one of the biggest things with Chainsaw Man was that I genuinely thought, like, people are just going to start falling like flies. Like, Himeno was disenchanted in a random episode. And that was crazy, right? And ditto for Aki, who is just cutting his life short. Now, realistically, I don't think the cutting life short thing is really going to come back to bite him that soon. I think he's going to be like a struggler. But still, throughout this movie, no one really dies, and like for me, that's kind of where I'm a little bit iffy on this whole thing, right? Because it did feel like this movie went wild, and I almost wish that Like, this tragedy was concluded with the fact that she is a child who has been forced into a weapon, and we got to see like the dark and messed up side of what Denji could have been. Or I guess, I mean, you could argue that he already is, right? Like, we don't really know Makima's influence and what she's truly doing. Denji could easily be used as a weapon into something that is not exactly great, you know? But with Reze, I mean, she was flying around and killing hundreds, thousands of people probably, because like the whole city was going up in smoke. But no one really we cared about died. There were a bunch of like new dudes that were introduced and they were killed off. But I'm kind of sad that someone major didn't bite the bullet, right? That's something that I thought was a little bit odd with this. One thing I absolutely loved though, and I'm sorry for jumping around in my notes, these are wild. The weird like hybrid animation style, right? So with season 1, a lot of people, not me at all, but a lot of people didn't really enjoy the animation style, right? So people said it looks great, but apparently it doesn't really work with the manga. I'm not up to date with the lore. Again, I only read the first, whatever it is, the first arcs leading up to where season 1 ends of the manga. I thought the manga is great, thought the anime was great. I don't really get what people were saying. Whatever, right? So this movie, the character art is like simplified, right? It looks very, very different from season 1 and the way character expressions were done there. And I also think they cranked up like the weirdness with some of the character faces, reaction shots, and everything, right? Which is, I think, what people were mostly complaining about was just how animated, I guess, not literally, but like how animated characters are, right? So that's something they do. The character art is different. The rest of the world is just as detailed as ever, and man, does it work. I thought that maybe it'd be a little bit jarring, right? Because Denji's face, for example, in some of the shots, it looks like I mean, we've all watched anime, right? We know what I'm talking about. When someone does like an exaggerated face, you expect like the background to also be simplified sometimes, right? When they do like reaction shots. But no, when Chainsaw Man does this, a lot of the times Denji is doing weird things, but the background and everything else remains the hyper detailed, super realistic looking Mappa style, and it works really, really well. And honestly, like if this is what they want to do for season 2, if they want to keep like the simplified character art and just keep the rest of the world like super dark and super gritty, sign me up. I really, really enjoy this. What I was afraid of is that they were going to pull back like way too far in the opposite direction and make it like way too, I don't want to use the word cartoony, right? Because like, I mean, it's all based on vibes, so I don't really know how to describe it. But like, I really, really enjoy the dark and grimy style that Mappa does, especially for a series like Chainsaw Man, right? So I do hope they carry it forward, and if this is the hybrid style they're landing on, I really, really enjoy it, and I think it worked great. So I guess if you had problems with season 1, I'd love to hear what you thought about the movie, because the animation stuff was always a bit weird for me, seeing the reaction to season 1 as someone who obviously went into the anime first, right? And actually, speaking of the manga, you should know that I hate fun. So in the middle of this entire crazy fight, which I'll talk about in a second, so this is like close to the end of the movie, there is a shot where Denji is doing something and it goes like super vibrant, super wacky colors, and there is like a brief freeze frame on what is clearly, I think, meant to be a manga panel. If it's not, then it's just out of place and I thought it was weird. If it is a manga panel, then I felt it was a little bit stylistically jarring, right? Because it really is like we are going in super high octane. Everything is like there are so many smear frames. Everything is going at a ludicrous speed, and then it all slows down. The colors like very much pop compared to the rest of the scene, and it just like does this like slow pan. I'm pretty sure it was fan service for manga people, because it must have been a manga panel or a manga cover or something. That one shot, I was literally sitting in the cinema being like, man, why'd they put it in there? It looks a little bit weird. Maybe I'm overanalyzing though. Whatever the case, let's talk about the fight. So the fight was insane. I do think I saw people on Twitter talking about this, like with One Piece, over animated, right? I do think there were some cuts in this that were like, and I'm sure this was on purpose, right? I'm sure when the typhoon, whatever the hell, takes over the whole city, it's barely comprehensible what the hell is going on, right? I do think there is a ton of clutter, and it felt like I was watching the movie on 2 times speed. And I would know, because I watch a lot of things on 2 times speed, right? So I'm aware of what 2 times speed is. I don't think I could have realistically watched this movie on anything above 1 time speed. That's how insane the animation goes in some of these cuts. It's just smear frames and just craziness flying all across the screen. And I thought sometimes maybe I would be like, maybe slow down a little bit so I can actually grasp what's going on. But they also did do that. So I think they hit like a nice Goldilocks zone. I think if they went a little bit more on the craziness, maybe they would have lost me. But I think with how they did it, the Typhoon Devil, it was supposed to be like overbearing, and I think it was by design that it was basically impossible to tell what the hell is going on. Because when Reze was on screen and she was doing the bomb stuff, which I guess I haven't even talked about, the Bomb Devil was badass. I've really enjoyed seeing her fight, and I guess that's something we're gonna have to deal with like devils that are similar to Denji, right? Like these hybrids. I'm assuming they're going to be like orders of magnitude more dangerous. Because comparing her to Katana Man, and that's, by the way, jumping around again, but whatever. So the Katana Man disenchanted, well, I guess it wasn't the Katana Man, but whatever. They disenchanted Himeno. How the hell did the Bomb Girl not kill a bunch of them? Like, she was going wild. But yeah, she is incredibly dangerous, and when we saw her 1v1ing Denji, it did go like very high octane, but everything was legible, right? Even when the explosions went like in, which was, by the way, very cool. The fact that they made the explosions like light up like a rainbow, and then there was an impact frame, and then the whole thing went into flames. That was done very well, and it did really feel like she is dominating the scene all throughout. So everything like that was great. It's just like some of the Typhoon scenes that I think might have been a little bit overbearing. Also, the post-credits scene. This one is, I was a goofy goober, I had to rush away, so I didn't stay in the cinema to watch the post-credits scene. I watched it on YouTube with a very illegal recording. The post-credits scene, man, I wish they went a little bit harder on it with the emotion, right? Because it does feel like Denji... It's gonna be interesting to see how Denji evolves from this in season 2, right? Because it feels like the connection he had with Reze was so different from even like Makima and stuff, right? Because it feels like Makima is always like leading him in directions, right? Like even when they were, again, in the movie, he was always like wondering, what am I supposed to do? He was trying to like pander to her in a way. Whereas with Reze, he felt just free, right? Like, he was always like, why is my body moving this way? Well, I think that's because, like, you want to like Makima, right? And you want to, like, it's your unfortunate brain that doesn't really, like, it's never had this before, right? So it's trying to figure it out. Whereas with Reze, it's completely natural, right? And it'll be very interesting to see how he comes back from this. Because it feels like Reze should leave a very deep wound on him. And, it's going to be very interesting to see how he interacts with Aki and even Power to an extent, right? They have like a sibling energy, and I wonder if that's also going to evolve. If Denji is going to become like, I don't want to say more mature, but maybe more like very wary. I guess would be the word I would use. Because by the end of the movie, he obviously understood what the stakes were, right? He clearly knew that there really is no easy way out. The whole running away thing, all of this was kind of, it was a dream, right? Like, after everything they'd done, after the city they blew up, there was really no clean solution. And, at the same time, he feels the way he feels. And this is something he has never experienced before, right? Like, not really. Nothing even remotely close to this. I just want to see more of Denji's coping with this, right? Because they put in a little goofy post-credit scene with Power, which was very funny and everything, and, like, eating the flowers. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how that develops. But yes, all in all, those are my thoughts on the movie. I think it was absolutely excellent. I think they did as good of a job as they realistically could have done with a movie with this, again, like 5 episodes. It was a little bit telegraphed. I do hope maybe there were more permanent consequences, but I think we'll see permanent consequences with characterization, right? It's clear that the little angel dude, I think we're going to see a lot more with him and Aki. It's blatantly clear that Denji should be hurting. And even Makima, like, we have opened up layers to her, and maybe we haven't. Maybe it's all a ruse. But still, Makima is an enigma, right? And all of this. Reze, the whole swimming scene, if not my favorite part of this movie, then maybe the entire anime thus far. I think it was again, I'm gonna liken it to Breaking Bad. It really felt like the last moment where things might have gone well, like when Denji could have escaped and started over, and maybe found a connection and maybe found a life that is just normal, right? And not in this like pseudo normal where I get food, but I'm used as a human weapon, right? A true normal where they could have gone to school together, they could have learned these things, they could have studied together, they could have gone to the cafe and studied geography or whatever she was studying, and just lived a normal life as a normal kid, right? Learn to read, all this stuff that a normal person does, and not a quasi-normal where he feels like he's moving up the world. Beautiful tragedy of the city rat versus the again, I forget the word in English, but you get what I mean. The ultimate rating for this movie, I don't know, like a 8 or 9 out of 10. I think it was pretty much as close to perfect as you can get, and I just hope we got more details on what comes after this, because I really hope we don't have to wait like 3 more years for the next installment of whatever Chainsaw Man is. I do think I want a season 2 as opposed to another movie. I don't think there's a lot more story. Like if there's even a little bit more story to put into a movie, I don't think it would work, right? So this was, I think, cutting it as close as you possibly could with making it a movie. The fight, again, excellent fight. I really enjoyed it. Felt like a beautiful emotional climax. Maybe I wish we got to see a little more like push-pull of Denji and Reze throughout the fight. As opposed to just like they lock in and yeah, she tries tricking him a few times. I wish we maybe got to see a few moments of vulnerability with Reze. Then again, we don't really know the whole USSR training thing. Maybe when she locks in, it's kind of hard for her to give even an inch. Because by the end, again, she does hug Denji, and then we do see that moment of connection all over again. So it's clearly there, right? Like clearly there is emotion there, and clearly there is remorse. It's just that maybe during the fight we might have seen a little bit. But yeah, those are my extremely chaotic thoughts. Let me know what you thought of the movie. Do let me know what you think of the animation style if you had a problem in season 1. And generally, let me know what you just thought. Alright, that's pretty much it. Bye-bye!